Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are thrilled to have in the studio with us today some of the brain trust of a junior achievement of San Diego County, Sid Vivek, President and CEO, joined by Hanna Jensen, Vice President of Impact. Sid and Hanna, always good to see you guys.
Good to see you as well, Drew.
Very, very, very good. And Hanna, how you doing?
Great. Thank you so much for having us.
So, full disclosure, I've been honored to sit on the board of Junior Achievement for 10 years, and you're very kind to shout out some of us old folks that have been in. I shouldn't speak for the other folks that were recognized. Drew's an old folk that have done it, and really, Sid, you've done a spectacular job working with folks like Hanna, and the rocket ship you folks are on has been terrific, and certainly a lot due to the work you've done. And I'm honored to be involved with you guys.
Well, and it bears repeating. Thank you for saying that, Drew. But it doesn't happen without JA's been around for more than 100 years nationally, 70 here. I've only been there for 5, and it's the leadership of people like you over the last 10 years, and frankly the last 70, that have ensured that JA can do the work that it does. So thank you again to Drew, to you, and your fellow board members.
Right, and of course, this place where you're sitting right now is no mystery to you folks. Mission Fed has been just a huge supporter of JA. And I know, Hanna, you've been in this building many times for meetings, have you not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Deborah's amazing at supporting the work that we do.
Yeah, exactly. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, who is the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. They're going to be celebrating their 20th anniversary this year. She's done a spectacular job co-hosting and asking the good questions.
The big questions, the heavy-hitting ones, all the things.
But why don't you, I know you have a question.
Yeah, actually, Jay has come up a lot, and so I'm stoked to get to know a little bit more about you. So why don't you just start off with your mission? What do you guys do?
Yeah, and we'll tag team on this because Hannah's really the brains of this operation. But at a high level, I would say that our goal is preparing young people for their futures, and we do that through 3 pillars: financial literacy, work readiness, and entrepreneurship. But across all of those pillars, how do we empower young people with the tools and the access to ensure economic resiliency in their future? And it's especially relevant now with the uncertainty that we see in the world, rising inflation, rising college debt. Young people are unsure, and what they see in many ways, they think they're unable to secure a future. And we think that with the right tools, with the right access, and the right partners like Mission Fed and board members like Drew, that we can provide a path forward for our young people.
Talk to me about young. You know, Drew always calls me young, but who are these young people? What's kind of the age demographic there?
Yeah, I mean, we truly serve from cradle to career. We start as early as kindergarten, and we serve folks in their mid-20s. Awesome. I would say that our sweet spot is probably between 5th and 12th grade, is where we spend most of our time. But as I'm sure we could all, and those of us who are parents would agree, understanding how money works and how to get a job and how to get ahead in your job, that's something that everybody needs to know regardless of age.
Absolutely, yeah. We're teaching my 5-year-old right now. So,
Well, listen, I think what's great about JA, and they've been doing this for many, many years, as Sid noted, and Heather's certainly leading the efforts in this. You guys are always on top about new trends. And it's not like, hey, we're going to pull out the workbook we did in 1940.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That thing went, by the way, the dodo bird in 1941, probably. Heather, talk about how you work with groups like Workforce Partnership, some of those iconic school districts like Cajon Valley, on what is happening now, what's going to happen in 5 years, and who knows down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. our young people are digital natives. They know how to use technology in a way that maybe those before us didn't. And I think that our young people have information at their fingertips. So it's our job to inform how that information impacts them in their futures. So everything from working with partners like Reality Changers and bringing in the importance of college readiness on top of career readiness, working with partners like San Diego Workforce Partnership in attacking, what are the leading high wage, high industry companies that we can connect our young people to, because they may not see it in their neighborhoods or their zip codes, but they're talented enough to work at those locations. So how do we ensure that we provide them that exposure and prepare them to be leading leaders of our communities?
Yeah, and you hit it, and Hannah's too modest to tell you, but in addition to great partners like that, it's brand new programs that come up that folks like Hanna and her teams develop. And so to your point, Drew, what worked 20 years ago likely isn't going to work now. And so shameless plug to my colleague, but she has been a big part of how JA has evolved and frankly remained impactful for the last 7 years.
Right. And one thing I've always loved about JA is the collaboration. You've had a very, with outstanding and stuff like that, you've had a very, tough, great board, I should say, really good board. They've evolved, they've expanded, and this is a working board. We've all been around some boards that, I haven't seen you in 5 years. Why are you still on the board, for God's sake? You guys really, work with those companies. One of the areas, and I'm sort of going to brag about my business partner's daughter, Ava, as Charles Parisi tells me all the time, what Ava remembers most about her K-12 work was BizTown. And so maybe just, Hanna, you can give us a nickel tour of BizTown.
Yeah, absolutely. BizTown is where we first engage our young people. It is their access to exposure to the industries that exist here in San Diego. So we have anywhere from 24,000 fifth graders a year entering into our facility and working alongside their peers as employees of our largest industries in San Diego. So everything from understanding business loans to understanding how do I hold a team meeting? How do I engage in the world of work? And that happens because of our incredible school districts that engage with us and prepare the students for this 4.5-hour simulation of life, essentially.
Yeah, it's a great deal. When I was working for the San Diego Union Tribune, we were honored to have a shop there. Not sure if it's still there or not.
It is.
It is there. Okay, that's great. And so forth. And, listen, those kids that come out of that, they talk about it. They've learned from it. They'll never forget it. They'll be 25. They'll be 29. They'll be, and so forth in that area. I think that's a great. We're chatting with Sid Vivek. He's the president and CEO of Junior Achievement, joined by his colleague Hanna Jensen, vice president of Impact. I'm Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the community show, the nation's longest running community podcast on our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades. These folks have been doing just phenomenal work in our community, whether it's working with a JA or whether it's working with the San Diego Council on Literacy and everything in between. They do a wonderful job. Kristen?
Yeah. And BizTown is actually how I first learned about JA. I think I was doing teaching artist work with the La Jolla Playhouse, and the 5th graders were like, oh, yeah, sorry, we didn't see you, Miss Kristen. We went to BizTown. And I was like, you did what? And they were telling me all about it. And it just sounds so fun. I can't wait for my kid to go. I'm going to chaperone on that day.
But you could also volunteer with them.
I could do that too.
Very good.
But
Sid,
I might go with him.
I just made some bonus points with Sid.
Excellent pitch.
Yeah.
Duly noted, Drew.
Talk to us a little bit about cross-functional collaboration within the social sector, if you would.
Yeah, I think when we... it's a part of our ethos as collaboration because we truly believe that any large problem, complex problem, much of the ills that plague society today require large, complex solutions.
Sure.
And that's not just from a policy standpoint, that's an organizational standpoint. And I think what we try to live and breathe every day is, what are we good at? And what are other people good at? And how do we ensure that we bring that collaboratively to bear on our young people? How do we ensure that our young people get the best of all of us? And if we're being honest, organizationally, while we sometimes like to think that it's all about us, if we're honest, we're good at some things, really good at some things, and not as good at others.
Yeah.
But all of us organizationally, we end up doing things that sometimes stray from our core missions. And so where we focus in cross-sector collaboration is how do we ensure that we're working in the private sector, in government, and with our other nonprofit partners in the ways in which all of us are really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think what's great about it, just like in BizTown Finance Park, maybe you can address a little bit about this too, Hanna. We talked about the fifth graders that go through that experience at BizTown, and you look at more of the high school students going through Finance Park. Proud to say, sponsored and by Mission Fed, and one more thing that makes all the sense in the world, Mission Fed Finance Park and all that. But talk about that experience, Hanna.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a part of our entire work of preparing our young people for the talent pipeline. Our pipeline starts as early as kindergarten. And so we hope that they engage in BizTown and then they lead into our Mission Fed Finance Park, which is really focused on preparing young people to understand their personal finances, to understand the cost of living here in San Diego, and the challenges that come with that. Our goal is not to scare our young people about their futures, but to prepare them for them, and so that they're not just surviving, but they're thriving here. And they understand early on the value of education, the skills that they're building, and how those can be used in their future.
What I love about Finance Park, and the same with BizTown on this, it's real things you're dealing with, I want to buy X. Sorry, you don't have enough money to buy X over here. And by the way, you have a family of 4, and you're not buying that Rolls Royce. So you're going to be buying Drew's 1925 Edsel, for God's sake, on it. Those are real life experiences you give them, correct, Hanna? Absolutely.
It's all about choices. It's all about them understanding the lifestyle that they want to live and the decisions that they need to make now to be able to fulfill that lifestyle.
Yeah, that's going to be with them. When we come back from break, Sid and Hanna, I want to talk about your summer youth employment. I know us folk here at Cloudcast Media, Charles Parisi, my business partner, the CEO and founder, cannot wait to get a hold of some of your students and be doing some work with them. I know Sid's probably had some offline conversations with them. If he hasn't, he will, because we want to give this opportunity. Back in the day, as you may remember, Sid, it might have been before you got there, we used to have some of the JA folks produce some of the shows that I would be doing here. But this is a natural. You can't turn your head around and not find out someone is doing some podcasting. And to be honest with you, it's such a great way of doing that. So we'll talk about that as well. And Sid, you've been on the show a bunch of times. I remember when Sid first got hired, Hanna, I'm not sure if he told you this. When we first met him, it was here at Mission Fed. I think we had one of the board meetings, and Sid goes, Drew, you're old and you can't remember anything, but I was at the YMCA. You interviewed me. Is that right, Sid?
That's exactly right. That was exactly right. And I was telling Charles, it was at your old location downtown.
It was
probably 10 years ago.
Exactly. No, that was great. So welcome back. We're going to chat more with Sid Vivek, President and CEO of Junior Achievement, and Hanna Jensen, the Vice President of Impact. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel, the Executive Director of San Diego Writers, Inc. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union and these wonderful Mission Fed studios in Scripps Ranch. And Mission Fed, more than 6 decades of just doing wonderful work. We're chatting with the Cool Cats from Junior Achievement of San Diego County, Sid Vivek, the president and CEO, and Hanna Jensen, vice president of Impact. Sid, the first time someone's called you a cool cat? I doubt it.
I think this is the first time anybody's called anyone a cool cat in probably about 40 years, Drew.
That's right. I love that. That's right. Going a little retro over here. Kristen, you got a question?
Yeah, I actually get called a cool cat quite often. I've told him to come up with some better adjectives, but it's a fun one. It is a fun one. Makes me want to go to a sock hop. So tell us about summer youth employment.
Well, I'm going to pass to my colleague
Pass
Hanna,
it on.
but I will at a high level. It's not a new concept, but the impact and transformative experience it can be for young people is well documented and doesn't exist in the way that the JA is putting together a collaboration to deliver on. So, with that intro, I will pass it to my colleague.
Yeah, thank you, Sid. Building on the concepts and skills that we've talked about through our McGrath Family BizTown as well as our Mission Fed Finance Park. It's not enough just to prepare our young people with the skills, but we got to open up doors for opportunities for application. And so that's really what our summer youth employment program is, working with all of our same business partners, working with all of our same nonprofit organizations and partners, is how do we place young people in jobs that are career bound, not jobs that they can get on their own in the summer. They're all doing that already. Our young people are eager to enter into the workforce and excited about the opportunities. How do we place them in places with mentorship that look like them, that are representative of the communities that they come from, so that they can see themselves in those future career-bound roles? And so that's really what we're doing. We're preparing them, providing them the skills, and giving them the opportunity to apply the talent that they already have.
Right. And I have to add, it's more than just the experience and the job, the quote unquote job. For most of our young people, for many of our young people, it becomes an equity issue because they're working. But the reality is the really unique experiences are usually unpaid and usually only accessible to those who have an in. Mm-hmm. So how do you ensure that a young person who may not have grown up in the quote unquote right family, or who may have been going to a school in the quote unquote wrong neighborhood, how do you ensure that young person who has all the talent in the world has access to opportunity and experiences that others of us are privileged to have? That's really what this is about. It's not just a job, but it's opening the eyes and the doors to young people who deserve to be there. A quote that we use often, and it's not an original from us. So apologies to whoever said it first. But talent is universal. Opportunity is not. How do we ensure that more opportunities are available to the talent that currently doesn't have access?
Yeah. So question for you on those. You can start with you on this, Hanna, and you can jump in, Sid. So on these summer youth employment opportunities, are those paid jobs? Okay. So in other words, if you're going to participate, fill in the blank company, you have to pay. Is it, do they decide on the pay, or does JA decide on the pay? How does that work?
We're working through a lot of that with our partners, but it is paid. And in some cases, we've raised the money through private philanthropy to pay the student. Gotcha. In some cases, the corporation pays. Right. Or a combination of two. Exactly. So for us, that shouldn't and can't be a barrier. And we feel very fortunate as we go through this process, and we've already put more than 60 young people in paid work-based learning opportunities. We really feel fortunate. The money has not been the barrier. People will donate, people will pay, because I think they see the value.
Right. Yeah. There's no question. Kristen, you were going to say something?
Was I going to say something?
Yeah, you were thinking something.
I was thinking something. No, I was thinking about, you seem to do so many amazing programs. Do you have any success stories on the forefront? And they don't have to be these big, audacious success stories, but anything that comes to mind, like, wow, we really changed that student or young person's life.
Yeah, well, the hope is that there are more than 30,000 success stories every year. Because that's the amount of students that we impact through our programs countywide.
Wow.
And so I would hate to have one. What I would tell you that is most, it warms your heart when you hear a young person say, wow, I didn't know I could do that. Mm-hmm. That alone, that eye-opening, mind-blowing experience, that is what we live for. That is the goal of what we try to do, because we don't think we're going to solve everything in the 5th grade.
Sure.
And in fact, our goal, if we're successful, is that these young people leave us with more questions than necessarily answers, because it means that they're now interested, they're aware, they're engaged, and they have agency over their futures. It's not a future that's going to happen to them. I'm just going to have to do this because someone told me. It's I get to do this because I want to.
Yeah.
And I find it so interesting when you go to the board meetings, and I need to be a better board meeting, and go person I said
that point just came off the board, Drew.
Oh, that's right. You can put it on the negative side over here. No, seriously, they are engaging. You see your colleagues from across the different spectrum on it, but always amazes me when there's a new board member you introduce, and I went to JA when I was in 11th grade, or my daughter just went through it, or man, I was doing JA when in Cincinnati before I got transferred out here. It is unbelievable how much that is a touch base. Hannah, how many of the folks that work for you folks actually went through the JA program here, or is there? Do you even know a number of that? Some of the ones that are working for JA as we speak.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that a lot of our young students, when we bring them back to the program as high school students, they remember their experience in BizTown. They remember their experience in the Mission Fed Finance Park. And I think the value of our staff team is whether it was at a JA program or another youth development program, we all are empowered and passionate about the work that we're doing. We have an incredible, mighty team at JA that really believes in the students that we are serving and are representative of the students that we're serving with similar lived experiences and opportunities. So it may not have been a JA program, but I think the value of youth development within our region, within our country is so powerful, and the power of mentorship. None of us are where we are without somebody 100%. Else lifting out a hand and saying, follow me, come on. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to do for our young people is place mentorship in their lives and give back in a way that makes them feel connected to their communities.
Well, and Sid, you hit the nail on the head. It's about opportunity and providing everybody. I don't care if you're polka dot, green, white, blue, Martian, doesn't make a difference. You know, it's amazing when you give these kids this opportunity, how they thrive. They just never had that opportunity. You know, I mentioned about Charles Parisi, my business partner's daughter, Ava, who just absolutely just is thrilled about BizTown. But that is in her memory. And, you know, that success she had has, you know, sort of led her to love what she's done in school. She's now graduating from Duke University's law school, and is a high-performing, she's a great kid anyway. I got to brag about her a little bit. I first got to know her when Charles was introduced to me by Deacon Jim Vargas when they were doing a concert for homeless teens called Songs for Shelter. And here comes this beautiful, you know, young, I think she was 14, could be 14 years old or something like that, give or take. And just got a great voice. And you said, boy, she is going to be giving back in the community forever. And she is in that aspect of it. And I think that's another thing that I love what you folks do at JA. And maybe you can just touch on it. We got a few more minutes to go, Sid, is that you also talk about not only the careers, but giving back. Talk about how important that is.
Yeah, you know, it's... We just got back, I think, as we spoke, and many of us have gone to the YMCA's Martin Luther King breakfast that happens annually. And something that relates to your question that was said there is that, you know, we all benefit from the shade of a tree, but someone planted that tree decades before. And I think of mentorship, and as you think of giving back, the fact is we all got here because somebody or somebodies did something for us, whether intentionally or subconsciously or very tangibly, did something for us years ago, and that's how we got here. And ultimately, the goal of what we do, not just for a living, but hopefully as a part of our philosophy, is to make sure that our young people understand, not that we did something for you, but that when you get to where you're going, know that people did something for you. And what are you doing for people. And that's ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with you on Hanna and then toggle over to Sid on this. What can our listeners do to support the unbelievable work that JA does? What can we do?
Yeah, thank you. First and foremost, get involved, engage with us, volunteer. People's time is their most valuable asset. And our young people need mentorship. And so the opportunity to, share your story with our young people to inspire them to follow their dreams, that would be, I think, our number one. And as a nonprofit,
Yeah, and I also would want to tell your listeners that thanks to the Schlosberg Family Fund, there is $1 million match that if you give today,
I love it.
Drew will match it. So
He does this to me all the time, so thank you.
Actually, I think I'll double it. And so that would be great. No, listen, it said, you and I know each other for quite a while, and Hanna, it's been great getting to know you. Thank you for participating in some of CFF's events, and you guys are always been there for ours. I mean, there's so much synergy between the Classroom of the Future, obviously, and what you folks do, but it is a true honor to serve you folks, and can't do it enough. I hope I can do it another 10 years. Who knows? You'll probably say, Drew, by the way, this is your walking papers, and this is the last interview you'll do. It is a great organization. I can speak from experience on that, and anybody who gets engaged in it, whether it's a volunteer, whether it's a donor, whether it's getting your group involved with BizTown or Finance Park, you will not be disappointed. Sid and Hanna, always a pleasure to see you guys. Just can't wait to see what's next up with some great stuff in JA, and wishing you folks nothing but phenomenal success moving forward.
Well, thank you, Drew, and thanks for getting the word out there, not just for JA, but for continuing to give a platform to organizations doing really great work. It's always fun coming in here because I love the people who come before and the people who come after. So thank you, guys.
Appreciate that. Very good. Sid Vivek is the president and CEO of Junior Achievement, joined by Hanna Jensen, vice president of Impact. Thank you so much. My wonderful co-host, Kristen Fogel, the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. I'm Drew Schlosberg, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.